President Donald Trump is due to unleash fresh tariffs on Saturday on major U.S. trading partners Canada, Mexico, and China, with Ottawa informed that levies will be effective within days. The U.S. government has told Ottawa to expect 25% across the board tariffs on its exports starting Tuesday, with the exception of energy products like oil. Those would face 10% rate. Trump has threatened a similar 25% levy on Mexican imports, pointing to what he said was both North America's neighbors' failure to halt illegal immigration and the flow of fentanyl across U.S. borders. On China, Trump vowed a 10% tariff, charging that it had a role in production of synthetic opioid. This threatened upheaval across supply chains from energy to automobiles and food, analysts said. Trump has repeatedly expressed his love for tariff and has signaled that Saturday's action could be the first volley in further trade conflicts to come. This week, the U.S. president pledged to impose duties on the European Union. He has also promised tariffs on semiconductors, steel, aluminum, as well as oil and gas, without specifying which countries would be tagged. Joining us to discuss this development is Festus Tokumbo, a global affairs analyst based in the United Kingdom. Good evening and welcome, Festus. I cannot hear you, Festus, at this moment. Maybe you have
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Good evening.
I can hear you. Good evening. First of all, how are the countries around America taking these tariffs that are being imposed on them by the U.S. President Donald Trump?
Thank you for having me on your show. It is widely respected because he has threatened during his campaign for the presidency that going to be imposing high tariff on those countries that are maintaining trade deficit with the U.S. President Trump is a globalist. He's not a globalist. He's an ethno-nationalist populist that believe in the American interest. And that was the promise for the U.S. electorate. But in the American, we're in a globalized world, characterized with we're in a multipolar world. The American interest is best achieved through collaboration and diplomacy. If you examine since 1994, when the U.S. formed free trade alliance with Mexico and Canada, and since 2011, when China was admitted to the World Trade Organization, the U.S. has been maintaining trade deficit, trade imbalances with Mexico, with Canada, with China, with the European Union and other countries. And there are many factors that can be attributed to that. But one of the factors is because the US dollar has been highly overvalued compared to the other basket of currencies. So what that implies is that the American manufacturing companies will prefer to go to Mexico to produce, or China, or even Canada, where there's cheap labor, than producing within the local economy. And those countries will benefit from it because it will create employment, improve their GDP. So imposing high tariff, 25% tariff on Chinese goods, on Canadian goods, or Mexican goods, will affect both the American consumers and those countries. If we examine the U.S. trade with Mexico, over 87% of Mexican exports goes to the U.S., while in case of Canada, it's over about 75%. So those countries depend so much on export to the United States to create government revenue.
Okay, you're talking about Trump being a nationalist, and he doesn't really care much about what happens in other countries. He wants the interest of America.
Yeah.
But what does this portend to the American economy itself? Because some people are beginning to see this as maybe it is the beginning of the end for the America as the world superpower. Because if other superpowers boycott America because of the stringent measures, it might be detrimental to America. What do you see for American economy and America as a country, as a world power? Just briefly as we wrap up.
The American is still the largest economy in the world with about $27 trillion GDP. But when it comes to trade, US has lost trade to China, and in military, you have to contend with China, with Russia. So the US cannot maintain its global influence through trade. Or the only option the US has is diplomacy, because the only influence the US has on global economy is the US dollar. And if you examine many countries in the world, especially those low-income countries, the main problems that those countries are battling with is dollarization, because they depend on US and those neoliberal institutions for loans to support government revenue. Many of those IMF or World Bank's loans are conditioned on dollarization, which is a plan from the United States. What I'm trying to say is that the only option the US had to maintain its global influence is through diplomacy.
Okay.
I mean, the Donald Trump method is not a sustainable model, because when you impose high tariff on Canada or Mexico, it may create inflation within the US.
Okay.
And when that happens, the US Federal Reserve will adjust the interest rate to address inflations.
All right, Festus. I wish we had more time, but I think this is a developing story that we'll have to discuss another time. But we'd like to thank you for your thoughts this evening. At least it has told us what the picture is around America and what is the likely future for America if this continues. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That was Festus Tokumbo. He is a global affairs analyst, and he joined us to talk about the tariffs imposed by America on neighboring countries and every other country that is trading with it.
Hello, hope you enjoyed the news. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to hit the notification button so you get notified about fresh news updates.